Let's have a look at a very interesting megatrend. First off, read this disclaimer carefully and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. We do have a bit of a massacre in the high beta stocks at the moment, so there's definitively some huge shift happening. And that is problematic because these kinds of high beta, less certainty, different time horizon stocks, in a strong market, they are supposed to do well. The fact that we are seeing money fleeing many of these themes, that is a sign that there's a fundamental change now in the market. So there is a bit of a flight to perceived safety. So that's definitively something to have on our radar. One of the themes that we will look at today, well, the theme is the data centers, and we will look at the stock called QTS, Realty Trust. It's a REIT, 14% here from the low, 12-ish% away from the high. If you look at some of my recent analysis of megatrends, like we looked at Virgin Galactic, we looked at Yala, and they have just, I am very clear, that, when I find a support level, I want that support level to hold for a bullish thesis to be viable. And we see that, Virgin Galactic, the support level just eviscerated. We see that with Jala, the bulls are completely freaking out. So it's very disturbing to see this major change. So yeah, which is why it is a very good idea to have, a long, short portfolio. Anyway, here is QTS. So it's a leading provider of data center solutions across a diverse footprint, spanning more than 7 million square meters of owned mega-scale data center space throughout North America and Europe. Yeah, this is, a very interesting company in a very interesting theme. Here they even have a bit of a presentation. Yeah. When looking at the charts, there are time cycles. There are some small time cycles. And there's also seem occasionally to be some larger time cycles as well. The issue with the cyclicality of this stock is that the duration of the time cycles, it varies. But it does move in cycles. But for some stocks, you do have that very reliable time cycles where the duration is consistent. Because that is what happens when I draw the time cycles, is that they are literally of the same size. But the basic thing here is that this stock, it's one of those to consider on a pullback. So what is happening right here and right now is that it's a bit of a messy period. We do have some cyclicality here. You see that ever since here, it has moved in these time cycles. Which suggests that there could be potentially a bit more pullback on the horizon. However, there is a bit of a but. The big but is that we are currently testing here the purple 20-week moving average, and we basically have a cluster of moving average support. So that is something that could be beneficial for the bulls. If we go here to the daily data points, we do have this cluster of support and resistance. So we are finding some support here at the green 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average. They should hold. So for a bullish thesis to stay valid, these must hold. So far, the bulls are very reactive. Boom, support. Boom, we do find support. That is, of course, nice to see. The challenge for the bulls is the red 200-day moving average, which is, it has been solid as support and resistance in the recent past. Like here, it was very clear resistance. Here as well. So it is a bit of a messy situation. You could argue that we recently formed something that looks a bit like an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Though arguably it is, clearly it is a bit of a messy one. Well, that was not, the best drawing. But if we draw it like this, then you can see it. You do have this inverse head and shoulders pattern. and that is a bullish technical pattern. So based on the current technical setup, I would lean somewhat bullish, but it's all about finding corroborating data. And when we look here at the seasonality for QTS, we do see that May is a decent month historically. June is a bit mediocre. Well, not really mediocre, but 57% of the time it closes higher than it opened. It could be better, but then July is the strongest month. So if I were to look at QTS from like a bearish standpoint and look especially here at seasonality, it makes a lot more sense for me to become more bearish, heading towards the later part of the year. Because August, September, October, November, they are characteristically weak. So it could be that the super strength here of July is something, and May is also strong, that it could be sufficient to spook the bears a bit. When we look here at Finviz, we did bounce here from a double bottom support, but then we do have this very clear horizontal line of resistance. So we do have some clearly defined support and resistance levels. When we look here at analyst price targets, we do see that ever since May, it's only been initiated and resumed and upgraded. So there's no downgrades, and the price targets are significantly above the current price of the stock. So the analysts, they do suggest an 18% upside. And an 18% upside from the current level, if we are to measure like from there, 18%, that would be a full-blown breakout. Obviously that would be rather bullish. Going to Saks.com, they have a number 3 hold, D value, but there is a big growth, steam momentum. Industry rank, bottom 18%. It's REIT and equity trust. It is certainly a real estate investment trust, but this is clearly also a bit different. This is not your classical rental home REIT. This is data centers. This is part of a very powerful theme. The dividend is juiced, 3% to have exposure to the data centers. That's not too shabby. So basically, if I were to sum up my take here on QTS, Realty Trust, okay, I think that given the evidence we have collected, especially the fundamentals, the seasonality, and also the support levels we do have here on the weekly and the daily data points, I think that we could build a stronger bullish case than a bearish one. The caveat is that we do have a bit of an issue with the time cycle, and we also have resistance levels above us. So it is a bit of a messy situation. But if I were to look at this from like a bearish standpoint, to consider a bearish trade, I would feel less comfortable with that than a bullish one, due to the aforementioned reasons. So yeah. But definitively, it's a very messy situation currently in the market. We do see that, especially this situation here with these high beta themes. There is something happening under the hood. There is rotation. The split second we go here to economic signals, then we see a lot of green instead. So it's very important to look very closely at these things. And what is happening with some of these megatrends, it is also forewarning, because many of these megatrends, they had charts that were very parabolic, and now they are like falling to pieces all over the place. And that's a warning, because there's many other assets now that have these bubblish themes that I have highlighted in other videos. And when we consider what has happened to some of the high-flying themes, that's a warning about what could very well happen to this currently strongest themes. So yeah, definitely something to consider, because there's many parabolic charts out there. And we have a lot of evidence now that when the sentiment changes, it can change in a huge way, and that is why I really do not like bubbles. I don't like parabolic charts, because they do tremendous damage to the underlying companies.